Hey, it's Denise from LoomaHat.com, and I am so excited to teach you guys how to make a paper bag baby hat using the beautiful brioche stitch. So this stitch is pretty easy, but it can be a little confusing, and I cannot more strongly suggest that you watch the whole video from beginning to end before you start the project. Alright, let's get to it. Make a slip knot and you're going to put it on your anchor peg. Then you're going to wrap every peg. Do a row of the U-wrap knit stitch. Continue till the end of the round. Now we're going to knit one purl one around the whole loom. We're still using the U-wrap knit stitch. To purl, put your working yarn under the loop, scoop it up to create a new loop. Take the old loop off, put the new loop on, and pull your yarn. Continue the pattern to the end of the round. On the next row, you're just going to knit every other peg. So you're going to knit that first peg, and then you're going to basically skip the next one with the yarn over that peg that you're skipping in. Try to make that as loose as possible, and then go ahead and knit that peg. And from this point on, you're knitting every other peg. When you reach the end, you're going to skip that last peg of row 2 and the first peg of row 3. So you're going to purl peg 2. You're skipping those and purling that second peg, the one right next to the first peg. That's peg 1. And you're going to skip the last, the first, and then every other one, which is an even number peg, you're going to purl. So remember, you're going to purl only the pegs that have 2 loops on them, and the ones that have only 1, nice and loosely, the ones with 1, you're just going to take your yarn and leave it in the front and skip that peg and get to the next one. Starting with peg number 1, you're going to knit every other peg, and all of these pegs have 2 loops on each one of them. They again are the odd pegs, so 1 and then 3 and so on and so on. Again, you're going to skip the last and the first. Oh, and don't forget to remove the slip knot. Now you're going to purl every other one that has 2 loops, and that's going to be your even pegs. We're on row 6, and it's time to add that second color. You ended row 5 with a purl and now you're on peg 1. Make a slip knot and you're going to put it on peg 1. Now you're going to tie a knot with the 2 colors, and it doesn't have to be a major knot, any simple knot. You could do it twice or not. Now knit every other peg. Remember, only the pegs with 2 loops. We're on row 7 and it's time to start purling again. Same tricky spot, but now we have 2 colors, so we're going to just place the blue over that last one and the purple over the first one, because we're skipping those, and we're going to start purling on the second peg. Now purling every other peg with 2 loops on it. Now remember that the last one, even though that loop is loose, it is still on that peg, and you're going to purl that last peg. Even if you believe you've mastered this stitch, watch this recap. The last purl is a little tricky. So here's peg 1, and it's this one before that first one. So you have this last one you knit, do your yarn over with purple, your yarn over with blue, and that's where you're doing the purl stitch, and that blue is loose. Alright, so you're going to have to purl that stitch with a loop that is loose. Done. And the pattern just starts again with a knit stitch. Now we're ready to go back to just one color. So we're going to cut that second color, and then we're going to create a simple knot. The last peg you skipped, go ahead and knit it, and then from this point on you're going to knit off all of the pegs that have 2 loops. For row 66, we're going to knit all of our pegs using the E-wrap knit stitch. Wrap every peg. Now knit off every peg. When you're done, we're ready for the modified basic bind off. The technique is worked over 2 pegs, so peg 1, peg 2. Wrap peg 2 and knit off, and take the loop off the peg and move it to peg 1, tighten your yarn, knit off peg 1, and take that loop off of peg 1 and put it on peg 2. And now peg 1 has no loop. Repeat this 2 more times. Now you've done the basic bind off on these 3 pegs, and the 4th one is the one you're going to modify, and you're going to do that by knitting both pegs 1 and 2. That's the only change when you knit both 1 and 2. Otherwise the technique continues just like your basic bind off. When you're done with the bind off, now you're going to turn your work around inside out, and we're going to start weaving in the ends. So this next step is optional, but I personally like to tighten my loose loops, and if you do too and you've never done this before, just go to LoomaHat.com/loose loops and you'll find a whole post with a video tutorial on how to do this technique. Then it's time to add the bow, so figure out exactly where you want to put it and thread a yarn with that yarn, whatever color you want to use, and we're gonna weave it in. When you're done, pull your strings to close the hat, tie it up, and make a bow. You're done. And what's cool about this little hat, it's like having a pom-pom without having a pom-pom. Well, I hope you guys liked it. A special thank you to Maria Eugenia Tovar for teaching us this amazing stitch. Besos, amiga. For more hat patterns, stitch patterns, scarf patterns, other stuff, visit the website LoomaHat.com.